This is our Modelware systems page. Please give us a follow. It'd be great to have you part of our community on LinkedIn. So latest statistics of the CDMP professionals. So congratulations if you've got certified. As you can see, there's a big jump between associate and practitioner. So yeah, we really want to encourage you if you're aiming for practitioner and master. We'll be happy to help you. And yeah, it's a great journey and we can help you through that. So if you want to start your journey with the associate, these are the dates for fundamentals training. We have our next course on the 4th to the 7th of December, and then we'll be back in Feb. I'll be happy to share more information if you would like to know more about our fundamentals training. It's a 4-day course. The instructor led on Teams, and you'll get the DMBOK summarized study notes, over 750 practice questions, an opportunity for a study group, mind maps, and I think that is everything. Sorry, so there's lots of benefits to that one, and we'll be able to help you through the whole journey. If you have been working with the DMBOK for many years and you would like to do the CDMP associate by yourself, we do have a CDMP DIY. It is more of a refresher course, and you can build your own DIY if you would only like to have a few of these things and not everything. And I'll be happy to share more information if you'd like to know more about that. These are our specialist training. We call them the how-tos, as our fundamentals is more on what to do. So if you'd like to join our how to govern, how to trust, we do have upcoming specialist training. So our how to model data is next week from the 20th to the 24th. We'll be happy to squeeze you in if you'd still like to join. That is Steve Hoberman's training. It's a really good course. Data governance for certifications, a 3-day course from the 27th of November. And there's a 2-day data quality course, the 29th to the 1st. So if you want to specialize in data governance and data quality, you only have to join 1 week of training and you'll be able to write both exams. And then we have how to analyze data and how to plan. The how to plan is data architecture. There's no CDMP exam for that. But if you would like to build your skill sets on data architecture, this course will be great for you. And that is everything from me. I'll drop my email in the chat if you need any assistance, and I'll be happy to help. Yes, over to you, Howard and Yule. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much. Just a brief introduction in terms of the message that we shared last week, and we're certainly hoping that a lot of you are around, but if you may not have been there. So I see that Diana's hand is up. Diana, is there any question that you'd like to ask now? Maybe your hand went down. Okay, so data storytelling.
Sorry, is it Diana Z?
Sorry?
Hi, is it Diana Z? I'm not so sure. I logged in with my phone, so
yes,
I can't see other functionalities. Is it up?
Your hand is down. Your hand is down now. That's great. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diana. Okay, so I know that Yulia's got lots to talk on, so I don't want to take up too much more time. It's already 20 past. So let me, unless there's someone who wants me to do a quick overview on the data storytelling, is there anyone that sort of missed last week and that want to have a quick catch up?
If you can, especially that slide, if you can just catch it up, like where it fits in within the data world.
Okay, all right. Okay, so one moment, I just want to get my screen duplicated.
I cannot see the slide.
Can you see it now?
No. I just only a TV on my screen. This is
okay, so Debs, can you see it? Yule, can you see it?
Yes. I can see it, Howard.
Yes.
You're the most important. Hey, Drew. Sorry. Okay. All right. Thanks, Drew. Majela, I think maybe if you leave and then come back, it may right itself.
Yes. I will try that. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so let's go through it quickly. This was basically the definition of the storytelling, and we spoke about the three components. That the data, we now require a very thorough analysis of the data, dealing with descriptive, diagnostics, predictive, prescriptive, and cognitive. And then we have the storyline, which is where Yule's approach is going to come in. Now, as we were saying, we are developing a course on basically the storyline, how to build a storyline on the data. And the recommendation is you get the data first, then you tell the story, then you build a visualization to communicate that story. Okay, so don't go data, visualization, then tell the story, and then try to wind these things back in again. Okay, that can go the wrong way around. So this is storytelling with Yule. It was normally Paul Grubler, but now we've upgraded. We're now with Yule. So these 5 questions, please, your analysis has to be able to answer these 5 questions. What happened? What happened that you're assessing? For example, a maturity assessment, the data management maturity assessment. What happened? Or, as an example, a business measurement on customer lifetime value, or if we want to have a budget for sales for the next 12 months. What happened in the last period? Did we go up, down, or stayed the same? And then why did it happen? Okay, we need to be able to explain what's happening to us. So if we missed the budget, why did we miss the budget? What are the causes that are leading to the effect? Okay, so remember, cause and effect, these are the issues. And then it's a case of, if we continue at this pace or at this cadence, what is likely to happen? Are we going to meet our budget, meet our target, exceed our target, or come in below the target? Does that mean we may need to close the business because we don't have enough sales to pay for all the expenses? And then what we do is that what should we do is, now that we know where we're landing up with some forecasting or predictive, then what should we do? What are the options? And we want to put options on the table and then get people to agree and understand. And this is really where Yule comes in, is to help people see the message, see the story, and then get involved in engaging in the story. Otherwise, we sit there and some people feel embarrassed because they don't really understand what's going on, or they don't know how to comment. And then that last one is to say, well, okay, having understood all of this, what is it that we don't know at this point in time? And Julia, I think that's a good point to be able to hand over to you. Is that okay?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you, Howard. Let me just get up my slides to share them.
Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions coming up?
We'll have to ask Drew. Drew, since we've been waiting for you, and you can see them. Any questions from you, sir?
No, I'm very keen to hear the story.
Okay, cool. Let's not get in the way of the story.
I'm also going to start by a recap, a very short one. But welcome to today's storytelling workshop again. My name is Yule Oswald, and I'm a TV commercials director, amongst other things. I've worked with many corporate brands, turning the messages that they have into effective narratives that leave a long-lasting impression. So they've used me over and over again because I know how to tie in their message with the audience. And last week we looked at how information is constantly speaking to us, and how companies have access to all this data, extensive data, big data, but many are not trained on how to effectively translate that message that data is speaking down the value chain and to management and executive roles as well, in a way where the message will be understood by everyone. And what's quite important is that in this day and age, disregarding the message that data is speaking will prove to be detrimental to your business. And information is constantly speaking, demanding some type of action, some type of response from us. And we must understand the true message that data is speaking, so we can give the appropriate action towards that data. We also looked at how if a lot of information is given to us in the form of numbers, charts, even conversation, it becomes difficult for our brains to comprehend and process exactly what that information is. And the brain can't make sense of it. And when the brain can't make sense of it, it stores all that information into your short-term memory, soon to be forgotten. So we learned how storytelling techniques can ensure that you bypass your short-term memory and go straight to long-term memory. It's just in the nature of the way storytelling was built, where the value of the information will be in long-term memory, and that will be used to come up with different strategies and solutions for your business. We also discovered that storytelling is an indispensable technique in the century that we're living in. It's an indispensable technique in communicating messages in a way that the human anatomy was built to receive them. And I think that's the key there. We also took a look at a case study by that Howard gave when a CEO walked out of a meeting 45 minutes earlier before it ended, because a presentation was presented to him in a complicated way. It had these complex visualizations that told him what was happening, but it never answered the question of why it was happening. It just told him at the end of the year, this is what would happen. And we spoke about how storytelling techniques could have aided such a scenario. And yeah, and lastly, we began looking at some storytelling techniques and elements, such as forming an emotional connection with your audience. And we saw how this is a foundation. We looked at the power of static and moving images, knowing your target audience, narrative structure, which is where we were. And under that narrative structure, we looked at the protagonist, which was where we ended. Just also a reminder, just in forming an emotional bond with your audience, that it ensures that you gain investment from your audience with your message, because different parts of the brain are activated when there's a strong emotion causing a memory that is associated with that emotion to be stronger and to last longer within the brain. And static and moving images also, when the brain that's the part of the brain responsible for long-term memory, that recalls and remembers images that are seen. And just with your target audience, we looked at using a style of communication that they're comfortable in communicating with. And that could also be taking into account the phrases and trends of the day that people can engage with, and what's happening out there in news, and the lingo. In narrative structure, I defined it as a written account of events, which is another fancy word for a story, because it's just all these events put together within a structure that make your story. And under narrative structure, we looked at protagonist, and what your protagonist is your hero of the story. It's the hero, and the story revolves around your hero. In the story you tell, the protagonist must also relate with your listener. So whoever your target audience is for your message, the protagonist has to relate to them. So the example I gave last week was a scenario whereby I needed to motivate my employees through automation, where they'd be transitioning into slightly altered roles. So my audience obviously would determine who I choose to use as the protagonist, and how I characterize them, because my listeners have to be able to relate with them. And I spoke about motivating female accountants at the firm. Some of them are 50s and over. And I spoke that the story that I would tell would be a story where I make my mother the protagonist, who's around the same age. What the accountants are going through, that change must help them to identify. And my mother must also be going through some sort of change. So before I just want to see if someone did the homework. But before that, let me just give a brief, quick summary of the actual story. So the story was about my mother, who initially embraced a traditional role as a homemaker at a time when women were mainly responsible for household tasks. So she had her morning daily routine, rising up early in the morning with curlers on, caring for her children and the household, and paying attention to detail. I mean, she loved everything that she was doing. But years later, despite societal changes, her daughter's moving out, my mom's routine pretty much stayed the same, except now she was a businesswoman. And one day my father decided to introduce this dishwasher, and he was met with resistance from my mom due to her ingrained beliefs, as though her worth was being challenged. But my father's support helped my mother balance her household duties and her business that was now growing, and all these responsibilities. You see, to grow and succeed, my father realized that they needed to embrace changes and new ways of doing things. And my mom eventually accepted this and learned that her identity was not in what she did, but in who she actually was as a person. And her business, after she accepted this, like flourished, and she got a helper, she got a maid to help her in the house. And what is special is that attention to detail and that love that she had for her duties, she took that into the business, and that made the business thrive and is special. So in summary, the central message of the story is that our identity isn't limited to a specific role, but is a part of who we are. Our character, our nature, and values manifest in any role that we take on. And we have the opportunity to grow within these new roles. So even when automation and changes in job responsibilities occur, it doesn't reflect on our competence or worth. We still have value, and we can carry our qualities into new opportunities and grow within those roles and grow within those opportunities to ultimately achieve a success for ourselves and success for the business. See, my mother was the protagonist, and that represented the accountants that were all in the same age bracket and could familiarize themselves with some of the things that my mom was going to. And the company in this case represented my dad, who saw potential in his wife and in the business and bought this new dishwashing machine. And the thing is about a protagonist is that according to neuroscience, like oxytocin is released when people are listening to stories, and it's this oxytocin that enables us to identify with the protagonist. And just a quick aside, story techniques also enable us to identify a parallel narrative that runs and serves as an analogy for interpreting data. By finding an analogy in the form of a story that resonates with our audience, we can effectively explain what happened, why it's happening, and when we can expect certain outcomes. If you saw the slide of how it's in the beginning. And we can address these questions within the context of a story, within the context of an analogy. And that analogy makes it a safe space where it's not like this is the problem, but you're putting it in a story. And it's seamlessly, you can seamlessly as well incorporate a solution on what can I do to improve. And if you incorporate a solution, some people may have hesitations towards the solution, but you can alter your narrative to confront and relieve any concerns that people have. But you could also use your story to inspire and encourage your listeners to come up with solutions themselves, which is a more inclusive way of doing it. And it's great that people come up with different solutions, because there's a lot of solutions that you might not have thought of yourself. So when you open up to the room, then people, one solution sparks another until you eventually get something that works out.
Can you still take the shins up on?
Yes.
So if I had to speak to a leader, right, and I'd say, okay, listen, you need to include people. This is the story I would tell them. So let's say you get a protagonist who's looking for a solution to a huge shortfall. And amidst the struggle, the protagonist's son is constantly saying to him, Dad, here's a solution. He offers him all these alternative solutions, and unfortunately they go unrecognized. But as the protagonist is at the end of his rope and he's exhausted all conventional avenues and faces like a looming threat of unraveling proportions, he has to reconsider his son's suggestions. So he does it because he's got nothing else left to do. And to his surprise, the solution that he overlooked turns out to be the victory, the key to his victory. And so I would say to you that story serves as a metaphor for untapped potential within a team. So, and by sharing such a narrative, the message is clear that sometimes the most effective solutions come from unexpected and underestimated sources. And this narrative not only motivates individuals to consider alternative perspectives, but also it emphasizes the strength that we have in unity in terms of problem solving. So really, you can alter your story to fit different scenarios, and your protagonist has to have a goal. So what does your protagonist want? And I think that's the big sell is, okay, my protagonist, if in the case of my mom, she just wanted to fulfill her duties, right? That was her goal. And in the case of the accountants, they wanted to fulfill their duties. In the case, and my mother's underlying goal is she wanted to be useful. And you can also merge it with the accountants. No one wants to work in a place and feel like they're useless. Everybody wants to be useful. So you could also tie in that theme of the accountants wanted to feel useful. And what challenged them feeling useful is what was their obstacle? Their obstacle was that they felt threatened by technology. My mom felt threatened by technology. Here comes this dishwasher. The accountants were like, what automation systems? What does that mean that we have to slightly alter our positions? So it really you can use your protagonist to benefit the point that you're trying to make. So you always link your protagonist to whatever it is that you need to address when you tell your stories. And also remember that because storytelling is a technique that is made for the human anatomy. I think that's what we went through last week, is how neuroscience has proved that storytelling is not for children only. It's not something that feels like those are for kids, not for us. It's for everybody, and it's got the power to change people. It's got the power to make people invested in the stories that you bring. But now, if you also wanted to up the stakes, what you could do is to give an emotional tie. Is you could give a reason. I could give a reason why my mother would feel worthless if she didn't perform her duties, and I could give a backstory of when she was raised by my grandmother. Her mom, her grandmother would always quote, like, if a woman does not fulfill her duties, then she's worthless. Which makes the moment when my dad brings this dishwasher and says, here's this dishwasher, then the audience is on their seat going, oh my word, I wonder how she's going to react. Because now we've all seen the backstory. This is real for her. Suddenly it becomes a real experience. All our emotions are heightened because we know we can hear the words ringing in her ear, worthless, worthless, worthless. If you think of the Lord of the Rings, right? So in the Lord of the Rings, what did Frodo want? What was his goal?
Ask Paul. Paul knows the Frodo very well.
Paul,
Mr. Krobler.
He was torn between staying home but following in his uncle's footsteps in the adventure.
Yes, that's definitely an underlying goal. But what was his goal? What is his main goal in the entire film? What was Frodo's goal in the entire film? All three.
He needed to go and get the ring destroyed.
Yes, he needed to go to Mount Doom, to Mordor, and throw that ring in the fires of Mount Doom. What was his obstacle?
Sometimes the ring itself.
Yes.
Evil forces.
Yes, the evil forces, the ring himself, and
Others who wanted the ring.
Others wanted the ring. Yes, and this is one more specific one I'd like you guys to say. Gollum. Gollum was also an obstacle to him because like others that wanted the ring, so it fits in there. So Gollum was an obstacle. So he had to deal with these obstacles. What was the solution to all these obstacles? Just throw anything out. Like, what do you think?
Grit, determination, and lots of help.
Yes, determination. Lots of, I think you actually hit it on the nail. So determination. So basically, there was different solutions in every turn, but his determination saw him through. But the lots of help comes in the form of a character called Samwise Gamgee. Because if it wasn't for Sam, his trusted friend, who carried him up that hill to throw that ring in. And at the end of the day, Frodo didn't throw the ring in; it accidentally fell. So, but the solution was in Samwise. So, if you're looking at a story like that, go take the ring to Mordor and have it destroyed, because this ring in the hands of the wrong person could do a lot of damage, right? And obstacle is these three different things. Myself, I want the ring for myself. The evil forces that are preventing us from moving, and also this other creature that loves the ring. And at the end of the day, then you get the solution, and Sam is the one that at the end of the day that helped to get the ring to Mordor. Within your context, in the realm of data, as data citizens, even as data managers, whichever space you work with data, how could you use such a story right now?
So maybe if I could, there's, as you've been talking, I've just finished a data quality course with in Riyadh, and
yes,
there was an interesting one, and I tell a story of going into an organization that the business people were very frustrated by the data. The one man came to talk to me, and he said that he had only finished working on his Excel report at 3 o'clock this morning. And so he wasn't very happy because of all the challenges he faced on bringing the data together. And then in talking to in bringing some people together, there was a lot of frustration, and there were these two different camps: the business people that were frustrated, then it were the IT people that thought that the business people were blaming them, and that was certainly the case. And so the IT's response was, yeah, but you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to build the graphs, and you don't know how to do that thing. And their situation as well, I work with the data and I can't get it to work. And what I said is that there are so many emotions here that we have to find a well-engineered, governed approach to fixing the quality, so that we don't have these antagonistic collisions with each other, and we don't blame one, doesn't blame the other, and things like that. So what we had to do was instill a process of measuring the quality. So instead of just saying, the error is dirty and the data is dirty and it's causing us problems, we had to now quantify that and then suggest a approach to remediate that data. But the goal is always from a data quality professional and a governance point of view, it's if we can do these practices very well, and they take a lot of effort to get in place, but if we do them well and we keep on getting better, the quality of our data is going to improve, and we'll have less frustration on our business people. So that's sort of the story that happens. And it was amazing once we could show everybody what the quality looked like in terms of measurements, then all of a sudden the frustration and the sort of feeling of being blamed disappeared. So they felt comfortable. And then it was interesting that the IT people could say, but look, this is what you added to the data set. It wasn't them. They are not adding data. The business people are adding data. So we had this whole roundabout circle where almost to an end, at the end game, was that both people understood that they were responsible for improving the quality of the data.
Oh, that's perfect, Howard. I think that's an amazing story. So if I had to look at it, just only because we're on Lord of the Rings right now, within that story, which is I would share that story as is in different places, but to them, if I had to motivate them, I could also let me present something to you. So if I'm not sure if you are familiar with Lord of the Rings, or how many, or if everyone in your target market would be, but I would give a brief story I would talk about how Frodo and Sam actually had the same goal, and none of them were not trying not to have that goal. None of them were trying to be evil. But we introduced this digit. This digit is called the ring, right? And this ring has a mind of its own. Okay. So I would make the analogy of the ring. I would make that in terms of keeping up with the data quality itself, all the data, and learning how to navigate with this ring on, and we know how this ring is. What do we need to put in place? What boundaries or measures or whatever do we need to put in place? Because we know what this ring can do to get us to make sure that we get to Modo.
That's quite a nice one in terms of one of the things we always talk about with data and data quality is because data is beneath the applications, we call it that the data is dark. You know, so you don't see it until you bring it up into the light and say, hey, look at all this, guys. When you bring up a BI report and all the numbers are wrong, or you put it in Excel, and so that's when so it's if it's left unattended, it deteriorates, and we call it's going rotten. And that's almost when it sits on its own with no attention, then it deteriorates. And so what we're trying to do is actually shine the light on this data all the time. So you run reviews every day, every time you move data, you constantly are being transparent with the data.
Yes. I think this is, there's so many narratives that lend themselves to the story. And I think the main objective, that's why you must always keep the main objective. What are you trying to do with your story? And what are you trying to do with your visualizations? Like what happened? So that's like, okay, cool. You've got the business side of things, and then you've got the IT side of things. What is their goal? What do they want? And when you find out what they both want, then you get, okay, cool, let me make up a story, or take a story that's already there, even if it's from film or a personal story, because I spoke about how personal stories, you can really get emotional buy-in from your listeners. So you would write down each person's goal, first of all, is what you would start with. Like a visualization, like what happened, a goal, and what's the problem. Okay, the main problem obviously has to do with this dark this dark data that we need to shine a light on, right?
Yeah,
And
maybe to share with you is that the real goal for all of them is to make good decisions. They want to make good data decisions based on data. But due to the lack of quality, they constantly make bad decisions, or they're spending lots of time trying to fix the data so that they can make some good decisions. But
yes,
the time spent fixing is something like 70 to 80%, and the time spent analyzing, and then they've spent, so they really cut to the end of that situation. That's where they face most of the issues.
So in the world of storytelling, so you would have more than one goal. So a character can have up to about 40 they want, but it's recommended for a film that they choose three main goals. And I think so. You telling me your main goal would be actually that has got to do with the quality of the data. They just needed to be data.
Okay, so business's goal would be understanding what's happening, getting insight, and making decisions. And data management's goal, or data quality's goal, would be to bring about that mature, governed approach to managing the quality, so that everybody's aware, everybody understands the state of the data, and it's not sitting there dark, and then they get a surprise when they need to report. And it's, oh, jeepers, what happened here?
And would you say, so thank you, Howard, then would you say so the obstacle in itself is the data, right?
No, it's actually the lack of management.
Okay,
so
the systems are not in place for the data.
Yes, correct. So the way we fix it, the best way to fix it is to do make sure that the data, the business people are entering it correctly, that the data's got all the protection and the lines of defense that it needs to keep quiet, keep the quality. And then we are aware of when things are going wrong and when the data is getting bad. So that's sort of the protection that we put in place to build those early warning systems, and just to have a good way of understanding the state of our data at all time.
Okay, so the best way to fix it is processes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Remember,
now you know.
remember I said one of the goals of data quality is to have a governed approach to managing the quality. We must all be working and everybody understand, working together to resolve the problem.
Okay, so is there any story that's not data related that you could fit into goals? There's two separate goals here, but they're very similar in that they want the same thing, into the obstacle of a system not in place. So just you'll start searching. Like first you can start, before you start searching, it's usually harder to start searching within your own lives. So you just go through movies. Where was the system not in place? Where was the system not in place? And people couldn't do what they needed to do. Is anything coming to anybody? Coming to mind?
I'm a bad movie watcher, but I know that there are a few others on here that do a lot better than me. I tell my kids, why are we talking about movies again? We just talk movies.
Or even a made-up story. So it also helps. It also helps when you're all together trying to make up a story right now. So a story of where something wasn't in place and caused a major problem and caused division between two parties. You could have two protagonists, because here you're speaking to, and you can have two protagonists within a film. So something that has caused division because something was not in place, and the solution.
One of the things that I do, I'm hoping somebody else can maybe contribute a better one, but sometimes it's like not managing our financial budget, you know. So when we don't pay attention to our budget and we spend and we do all sorts of stuff, and then we look at the end of the day to say, oh shucks, you know, we've overspent here and here. Now we're in a bad situation. We haven't planned for proper medical aid or something like that, and then we have an accident, and then there are all sorts of issues.
Yeah, that's a great story, because you can even go descriptive with it, in that okay, there was nothing in place. No one was documenting what was being spent, first of all. And there wasn't a budget put in place. So it was just like you just get the money and you just keep using. So no one knew what was going in, what was coming out. And at the end of the day, so I think that would be a perfect example. Even if you want to take it in the context within marriage, now there's tension between husband and wife, because no one knows what's going on within the budget, and it's frustrating both of them, although they both have the same goals within the marriage to look after their family and everybody's well-being in a great way. But just because they didn't put procedures in place, and none of them was checking every month to see to do a recon of what was going on, or keeping slips along the way, what must happen, you know, then all of a sudden, or type, so I've just spent this, let me put it into the budget, let me type it into the working budget on an Excel, because that wasn't happening. Suddenly there was tension. So now, how do we fix it? How do we fix it is you give very clear actions for solutions, hey? Because with solutions, you want your listeners, your target listeners, to go away feeling fulfilled, because they must see themselves as the protagonist. So I've just given a basic story, but now when you unfolding that, you're going to unfold it with characterizations for the protagonist, and you're not just going to keep it simple in business terms. It's not just going to be like, okay, the business guys have this goal. It's also, I'm going to ask you, why do they have that goal? Just give me the what you said about the business guys. Their goal was to
so one of the business people, they want to have a clear understanding of what's causing them to miss the targets that they are under, as you would always want to reach the targets. What's causing them to miss the targets, and what can they do if they are missing the targets? And a lot of it's about, shucks, if they can't trust the data in terms of what it's telling them, they can't depend on the why. And so they start guessing. They start think, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And after a while, they just they get tired of guessing.
Yes. So then the work there, and this may seem unimportant, but it's very important. Why? Now I'm going to ask you to look at the individual. Yes, business is a whole unit, but a person's name within the business unit, why don't they want to miss the target in your opinion? Like, if it was you, why don't you want to miss the target?
Maybe because, you know, I'm as the head of that, you know, let's take an example of, we're talking about business performance measurement. Every single department, the head of the department is responsible for reaching certain KPIs. So everybody's chasing those targets, and if they don't reach the targets, it's almost they have less say in how the business is run. So,
Okay.
you know,
What does that let's say? What would that do to you? You have to like go there like emotionally.
yeah, so it would make you feel inadequate. You won't feel that you've brought your side to the table. You've let the company down, and the company is now, you know, so you've caused the company to suffer.
Yes.
And the company's not doing well because you can't reach the levels that they want you to reach.
And I love that, and I think it's this now. This is now we're going into a story now. Now we're going to the reason behind why we want what we want, and we've got to have that emotional connection, like I spoke about. So when you're giving your story and you're just talking about now, you're talking about let's say you make the business guy he's the husband. So the analogy, he's the husband. So now when you're speaking about a husband that feels inadequate, that amongst all the other husbands in the world, he's the one that doesn't know how to take care of his family, and he needs leadership. So now you're also going into themes of, I know I haven't touched on general relevance, it's coming just now, but now you start going into themes of leadership, like he's a born leader, and what would it mean for a leader not to be a leader? Feeling of worthlessness. If you look at which we'll look at later, Maslow's hierarchy table, then there's the belonging, like also, where do I belong? Like, then all these feelings come in. So when you're telling your story, you have to put those nuggets in. So you can't just, then your story becomes, then you keep building on a story. So first I'll ask you, okay, cool, choose a protagonist and a basic story, which you've done, Howard, and I think that's an amazing story actually. That will probably relate to a lot of people, because here's the universal relevance, and it is the fact that we all of us deal with money, and all of us know the repercussions of not stewarding your money correctly. And all of us know, well, most of us, some of us, or according to stats actually, that EFSA looked at a while back, not most majority of South Africans actually don't know how to operate outside of debt. So here's the thing, majority of South Africans are in debt. So majority of South Africans are not stewarding their budget correctly. So that's a key point, you already know. So in the room, the people that you're looking at, probably majority could be in the same boat and no one could be speaking. So now you've got already an emotional tie of how you can get them invested in the story to a point where they're like, I understand that feeling, and we need to sort this out. So they could be a possible solution and fulfillment in the end, because we built for that, which is what I'll speak about as we continue. But just, is it making sense somewhere?
Yeah. Maybe I can ask, I've got a special friend here, Tebogo Cello from the Reserve Bank. I haven't seen you for years, and it's so nice to see you, Tibbs. How do you relate to that? Maybe she's not listening.
Oh, okay. Hi, Tibbs. Okay. Is there anyone else that like to? I know it's just the more you speak and the more you try work it out, the more it will begin to make sense. So even in terms of if you've got a scenario right now, so let me just. Okay, so if you think of a personal story, and it doesn't have to be a personal story. So let's not go there yet. Let's just still try break down what we're doing here. So if you write down what stories you tell concerning the introduction of data quality improvements within your team, or identify a situation that posed a potential threat to data quality, or anything, guys. What is the problem that you are having right now within the space that you find yourself in? So if you can write down the problem and write down your goal within your space or your team's goal. Start by doing that, and then write down a possible protagonist that you would use within your story, or if a story comes to mind, then just also write that down, or yeah. So I think I'll give you guys, is everybody okay to do this?
Yeah. What's the problem? Are you okay to do this?
Can
I'll probably not do it right now, but this is a fascinating conversation. These things I don't like to be rushed, so I'm actually taking a screenshot of this and building it into my engagements. I think this is really a fascinating fascinating way to think about communication, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and I think let me just carry on with but if anyone wants to say anything, so even with the example of the story I gave with Frodo and Samwise, like what type of story could you tell with that? And that could be a story. Yeah, I don't want to say anything, but if you guys thought of how could you relate that to a story or a problem within your team, please put your hands up. I'll give you about 30 seconds. No pressure.
You can see people dropping off.
Don't run away, please.
maybe I find it easier just to ask someone. Maybe Majela, sorry, Majela.
Sorry?
Majela, do you have a story for us?
Well, I have many stories about these kind of things, okay? When I was in project, working with data quality, data governance, data management. But I will think, for instance, one of the most dangerous issue with quality at that time in that organization about exploration and production data was the data silos, okay? And we fight with that for about 7 years, okay?
Wow.
Yes, because to introduce the concept of data quality as a culture in any organization takes time, okay? And to show them how we will improve data quality for them, and to build like today's said, one on the single source of the truth, which is quite impossible. So they really don't believe, they never believe in, in that database, okay? But this is my story.
Okay.
And who was the protagonist? Wow, I was the team in charge of deliver the data quality process, procedures, and create all of this, show the user, the clients, that this is good for them, for and I don't about analytics and not all of that things, just transactional data for the day-to-day basis, okay? And what is the sentence of the team is to be clear the procedures and process and standards that we write, okay, and let communicate, okay, all the time. We want many times, every week, every 2 weeks, every different audience, different department, a small department, no big people, no, that it's such a never, you know, a small amount of people, 10 people, but time and show, like you just said, the results of the KPIs. Okay, and they can the issues versus the reality. That's it. I don't know if that's the question.
Thank you. Thank you for that. You were breaking up a bit, but I did pick up a lot, and I think mainly data silos. Am I correct?
Yes, data silos. Yes.
Yeah. Data silos. So for me, I would start by thinking of why are they data silos? So I would look at each department and look for a universal theme. And when I say universal theme, I would try solve data silos with a universal theme, because you're looking at so many different departments, and now you've got to tie one message to motivate all those departments to see how important communication is between every single data silo, and how in their data silos they don't come up with their own special procedures or special ways of doing things, or communication that is different from the others. So it doesn't, so when data comes into one silo, it doesn't sort of change meaning a little bit, because of no one can interpret the meaning that a different silo has given it. So that would just bring me to, let me just move on to general relevance. So that's how I would solve that. And when we look at general relevance, it's what the audience is most threatened by and what the audience can relate to. So if you think about general relevance in a movie, it is basically, it's like, okay, in this movie, what are people threatened by? So think of the movies that do well at the box office. So they all use the same formula over and over. And that is opening up with a obstacle, or presenting an obstacle or a conflict within the first few seconds of the film. So the movie will open up, this example that I gave, and we'll open up and we see a happy family eating breakfast, and we see dad, mom, and the kids, and dad's got the strong bond, and everybody is it's a loving scenario. And then suddenly the scene is disrupted by these thieves that bust in, and they tragically take the life of the mom and the kids, and leaving the protagonist, who's the father, to face this nightmare. And this plot is very real, and it's relatable, because people, especially if the audience are, as most of the people that are listening to you are parents themselves, they actually engage with the overarching theme. It holds the audience attention, and it makes the story gripping, because it's the concept of family. Viewers have family, and no one wants the families to be like threatened, and the idea of harm coming to your family it touches something within you. This relatable theme captures our emotions and draws us into the narrative. It touches upon the universal fear. People have fear. Everyone's a universal language. That protective instinct that resonates within a broader audience, which is what you're looking at. So if we look at the movie Taken, right? So the theme there is human trafficking, which is on a rise in the world. And so anyone who's got kids would be genuinely threatened by your kid being abducted, or even in the African countries, even for work, they just abduct you and they traffic you. So here's the thing: if there's no obstacle, nobody would watch a movie, and Hollywood knows that. No one would stay engaged. Like, would you pay to go see people sitting and eating? the whole way. Nothing moves. So, because we're naturally drawn to obstacles. That's how humans are made. We constantly encounter challenges in our lives from the moment we're born, and we actually find satisfaction in overcoming them. It's ingrained in our nature to identify with issues and experience that sense of fulfillment. And this is the key to storytelling. Storytelling works with how the human anatomy was made. And the human anatomy was made to recognize problems. Our brain resonates with this pattern and is wired to comprehend it. It's not wired to comprehend numbers, trust me, and charts. It's not wired to comprehend all this information that's coming in, not in the context of a story. And filmmakers in Hollywood, they understand this very well. And they capture your interest by introducing a problem at the start. And then as the rest of the story unfolds, it's an interplay of problem and then a possible solution to that problem. But wait, there's an obstacle to the solution. The obstacle to the solution, oh my word, what are we going to do? We're going to find another solution to this obstacle that just got introduced. And it's this up and down that keeps your emotions heightened until basically you just like, please find a fulfillment, a satisfying ending. And people don't like endings that are disappointing. Some films don't have a resolve at all, and people walk out there going, okay, what just happened? And sometimes there might be this huge problem, and the solution, the fulfillment is not satisfying. So really with storytelling, you have the power to present solutions to your team, or to present an opening for us to discuss solutions that will satisfy their need for this obstacle, because that's a human thing. We need obstacles. We need to be dealt with and solutions to be dealt with. That's how we find fulfillment. So some of these timeless issues, if you would be poverty, like social classes, politics, corruption, provision, mental health, loss of innocence, climate change. So all these that you see here, good versus evil, justice, procreation, and gender roles, growing old, redemption, evolving traditions. You see, universal timeless themes hold significance, great significance for people, regardless of culture and social class, because it's not a specific relevance where only a niche group of people will understand what you're trying to communicate. But when you use a universal theme within your story, so many people can pay attention to it. Like, it was great that Howard spoke about budgets, because like budgets is feeling universal right now, because we can all relate to that. And someone in China must be able to understand, as well as someone in the deepest part of Africa, as well as someone in South America. They must all be able to, in America, they must all be able to understand the same message. And these themes really are so relatable, and they help people engage with the story and become familiar with the story, and they buy into the story because it becomes believable for them. And then they, in this game, if you write your story correctly of what you're trying to sell, you could also put possible solutions that didn't work out, and everyone is vouching, they want to vouch for the hero, they're vouching for the protagonist, please find the solution. And it's an analogy of their own work, their own business, their own lives, what they're dedicating themselves to, and they want the solution to be found. So these issues actually are the top timeless issues, according to amazing stats, actually. And at the top is love. So people don't generally, I mean, you just like, oh, love stories are just for females or whatever, as movies. I mean, I also, trust me, I'm not a love stories person, but within me, I'm not at all, I'm action. I'm like, action all the way. But if the love story is not done in a way that alienates me, but there's different themes within the love story, like there's a love story in Lord of the Rings, you can tell I love Lord of the Rings. There's a love story in some action movies that I don't realize it, but it's speaking deep to me, and suddenly I'm invested in this film, and I didn't even realize it was about love, because these themes are underlying. And then there's death, which everybody deals with, nobody's escaping it. Good versus evil, coming of age, power and corruption, survival, courage and heroism, prejudice, individuality versus society, and war. So if you look at the slide, you see that love is at the top, right? So here's the point of speaking to a broader audience. The themes that are at the top have a wider net. If you want to catch more people, use the themes that cast a wider net. When you're going to war, although these days like war is touching everyone just because of what's happening within the world and what's happening in the news at the moment, but not everybody goes through war. Not every country has gone through war, so it's not relevant in the fact that we've lived through it. But people have lived through love, people have lived through death, people have lived through good versus evil just by interaction with people or whatever spirituality they come from. Coming of age, we all at some point have transitioned from from children to adulthood, and so you can really see, like, cast the net. If you've got data silos, the examples and the themes, the themes that you choose for your story, make sure they're themes that everybody can relate to, and that your team can relate to. That would, I just want to put a link quickly onto the chat.
Maybe whilst you're doing that link, I just saw something. We do what we call data management maturity assessments, and
Yes.
that almost relates to that coming of age. So, you know, for many years we've been operating like kids, but now it's time to operate as an adult. You know, it's sort of
Yes. That's perfect, because that would completely work with the coming of age theme. But and the trick really is to the protagonist that you use for that coming of age. You might have to put two general relevant themes, or more emotional themes, to make sure that you cover everybody. Even though you are telling a coming of age, you have to add something else on top of it, just to make sure. If that, so let me just put this link. So if whoever's able to go to it now. If you are, it's a 2-minute watch, so it shouldn't be long. But it's quite
watch it instead of talking to you.
Yes, don't talk to me. Ignore me. I'll just be looking at everybody. If you can watch it, 2 minutes.
Okay, I've seen it. How many other people have finished watching?
Just as they're watching hard, I think that coming of age, it is number 4 on the list, but just to add it even with one of the themes that are higher, if you can find a way to do that, would really cement the point I'm trying to get through. Or another, like, your target audience, who they were. So another, if technology, humanity versus technology.
Yeah. That's interesting, because that will work well. That almost Mayela was talking about resistance to change, and that's it, humanity versus technology. So it's a little bit like the new ChatGPT and generative AI.
Yes.
People can get nervous of that change and then almost back off changing and back off that, what they feel is that challenge.
Yes, and the truth of it is also, the older people get, they want comfort. And changing, why, and then you would look at the specifics. Why do people resist change? But you'll look at that on an emotional level, not on a practical level. What is it about them that makes them want to reduce change? So that I would take an introspect on myself first. Like, why would I resist change? Like, what irritates me about when it's time to change? Comfort, then what does that mean? Then you have to go to the basic. So you become sort of like a psychologist, really, because you have to go deep.
Now I need to ask Paul, because now I'm running out of experience.
You go deep to see what bugs people about comfort, because there is something that bugs people about not about comfort, about change. And it could also be, I'm not sure if I'll fit in the change, but change, it's usually the one that's on Maslow's table of needs. It's usually belonging. That's what it usually is.
Yeah, there's also that when we do some of the training stuff, it's almost if people feel that they don't want to take on the new technology or they resist it, then is that going to mean that they can't earn the same salary? Are they going to have to take a salary cut, or is it starts to threaten their position in the business now because they're not being as explorative or as new thinking as others?
Yes, and there's nothing worse than when you're trying to change, to have resistance that's not spoken.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always looming in the back, but no one has ever addressed or spoken it about it. So it's good for companies to get on top of it anyway, without anyone who had spoken. And that's, I think, the power of storytelling is to reassure. So you would write down, what are all the possible feelings that everybody could have towards this change? How in story format, and what is the basic of that emotion that I'm addressing, and what story can I use to sort of put that emotion at ease, to put those questions at ease. And sometimes you can't put the questions at ease because sometimes someone is out of a job. And how do I use storytelling to encourage someone that's out of a job to, maybe they need to work harder, but like how to not just like drop them, like, but you can also use storytelling to encourage them to move on to something else. But yes, so the Adidas superstar, right? What did you identify there as what themes did you see there?
That I suppose that for me it was that feeling of being part of the in crowd, or being part of the people that have been looked up to, the sports guys and the
Paul, I'm picking on you.
Well, my camera is on, so it's easy. Yeah, I think what that ad did well is, and Adidas in general actually succeeds in doing that, I think, in many ways, is it hits. I missed the first part about what you said just after, because I was still watching the video. But identity is the main theme there, right? So in somewhere in that video, there would be something that pulls you. For me, it's not sports, but it could be skating, for example. It's not in this case, but it's kind of what Howard says is it's the in crowd, but what the in crowd means, what that identity, what resonates with you, it will not be everything, but it's trying to hit quite a wide range of things that people would relate to, right?
Sure. So Howard was right in that you tell story. You're good at yeah, I think so. Anybody else like to answer? Mayela, I'm picking on you as well.
Sorry, repeat again, please.
Did you watch the Adidas Superstar? The link I sent?
I couldn't because I'm on the iPhone and
okay.
And switch with this, so isn't it? And the internet cannot resist that.
Okay. No worries at all. But it's okay. You can copy the link as well to watch later. So the thing is, so you're quite right, both Howard and Paul, you're quite right. So when I watched that, I said, okay, let me see. And I just said one word first before we dive into the themes. And for me, what stood out was individuality, right? And I think individuality, in terms of also comes, I mean, it is a certain group, like you're saying, Paul, but it's that individuality. And then I listened to the last line that they said. They said, we gave the world an original and you gave us 1,000 back. So then I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not far, because original and individuality are the same thing. So they were trying to make something for an individual. to bring out individuality, and they and people gave them gave back 1,000 superstars. So they were just actually charting the history of the sports stars that have worn these shoes and become superstars, but also the rap artists that have worn these things and won whatever multiple awards. But also you picked up skater, Paul. It was also the skater thing. That worn Adidas. I mean, as a skating sport within itself, but really they were pushing individuality. I watched a mini documentary on it. It was about individuality. It was about freedom. It was about being original. So when you watch these things, you're able to see what can I pick out and who was the target audience there. So it was timeless because it went from the 1970s up till about the 2000s, early 2000s. They actually took us on a timeline. But who was the target market? People that want to be original.
Yeah, it's almost like the kids are who wanting to be the kids are looking up to their heroes and they want to be an original. They want to create their own place.
You want to make a mark in the world.
Yeah.
Yes, that's perfect. Thanks, Hard. And I also love what Corin says. What about adaptability? Definitely. Was a sports shoe to start with, but that was, you read the message perfectly. And it was a sports shoe, and they adapted it into into a lifestyle. That's the word. They adapted it into a lifestyle closer to, well, it's now become a lifestyle now. So that's completely correct what you saw there. So it helps for us to watch these things to see the message that they're trying to put out there, and who it appealed to. Did it appeal to anybody here? Like, did it move anybody here? No is a no, yes is a yes. Be honest. No to Howard.
I like Adidas sneakers. Yeah.
I know that it will move my son, Lachlan, Mark Lachlan. That's his thing. I mean that. So I sent it to him, and I'm waiting for his response.
So I love Adidas, but I won't go and buy an Adidas shoe. I'm rocking Jordans right now. But
I'm using barefoot.
And now we won't be able to unsee that, Howard. Thank you.
I'd much rather wear slip-slops than all those fancy shoes.
But look, the commercial emotionally moved me, and it moved me because I was a big fan of hip hop, and
yeah.
Also I like basketball, and I love sports. Like, I'm a sports person. My kids have no chance. They've got their medals all stacked. But because I competed on that level as well, Southern Gauteng, so I was moved by a different thing. I won't go buy Adidas, but I was like, wow, okay, I'll buy Adidas for my son. So they got me in some way.
I think we should. I think we're close to past. So should we wrap up? And let's. Is there anything that we'd want to close on?
I think let's wrap out. I just want to close on just to and remind everybody that this it's not a difficult process. Storytelling is for everyone. You don't have to be a creative or a writer or a director, but it's about asking the right questions. And also, like, when you're watching any video you're watching or any story you're hearing, try pick out the theme. So take one thing at a time, protagonist and theme, and then just see how that works out for you before we get into the other parts of storytelling. Yeah, so take it a chunk at a time, a small chunk at a time. But thank you.
Any comments from anyone? Any questions? Hamdi, I know you sit there listening. Is there any question from your side?
Thank you. Everything is okay. Thank you for this presentation.
Thanks, Hamdi.
I have one question. in the beginning, you said there's data and then there's the narration and then the visualization, and you shouldn't flip that around. I guess it was covered in the previous meeting, but why is that?
Okay, so what you're saying is the data and that analytics answers those 5 questions. All right. Now, what you want to do is when you understand your storyline, your visualizations should be linking into your storyline.
Okay. So if you do your visualizations first, you'll kind of try to maybe build your narration around that, and actually it'll confuse things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it helps also, like also when we're doing our, so you call them PPMs for TV commercials. We start by answering the questions when we're bringing out the briefing document. Because before because we also, I mean, we've got a different type of visualization. It's a storyboard, but before the storyboard, those questions would iron out any other kinks that we might have missed, and make our visualization storyboard so super specific. And yeah, and that's how we do it.
Yeah, and
if you look at
it'll help you to know what not to show, right? Because that's always, for me, one of the most. It's a lot to show, but what actually don't you show, because it doesn't help, or it clutters, or it messes things up.
I'll also share a link here on the top 10 visualization, and they are showing some amazing data, but the storyline on how it progresses, that's it's not a basic from the story. Now your visualization is really just getting into answering the stories, but what is the line that you're following? That draws on the metaphor, and then connecting the visualizations according to the storyline, and not just here's all the visualizations, bam, 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 bam,
Yeah, that's really insightful. Oh. No, thanks, Julie. This is a really great talk. I see you've got lots more slides there. You've got the same problem that me and Howard. We also,
so Paul, the idea behind this is that the idea behind this is that we're actually building a 3 to 5 day training course, but it has to be split over a few days, because you can't always give them a topic like this and say, okay, go and find a story. It's not going to happen within half an hour. It's your sort of response was quite apt there, because
you have to be able to. I mean, it's a process. There's a lot to think through and process first before you can actually even apply those techniques or instructions, right? So
yeah, it's quite different when you have to find the 2 themes. When you're told the themes, you can see them, but when you have to find the themes, then it becomes.
It helps when it's more than one of you.
Yeah.
Yes, and of course there must be a whiteboard in the room.
Yes.
And some wine as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Or maybe not wine. Coffee can work too. Yeah, depending on where you are. That's fine.
Yeah. Fantastic. Guys, I need to back up. Yuli, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
I really appreciate it. Hamdi, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Safe travels back.